The chance to shape your future is here. Learn and connect with exciting new opportunities. Are you ready for the next step?
Perfect. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Confuse.com Labs, bringing clarity to innovation. I'm Adrian Defta, and I run the Confuse.com Labs department, where I got the chance to implement some of the emerging technologies to enrich our customer journeys and customer experiences over the last 3 years. Together with my colleague David Tricky, we will share our insights to hopefully bring more clarity on three big innovation trends. Now, before diving into the trends, let me share with you a time when in 2020, or when 2020 was the future. I think that sometimes we forget that this present is the future that we were dreaming of 10 years ago. While thinking about what to talk about in this presentation, I remember an anecdote from 15 years ago when Google was still an emerging tech. And they say, what will Google look like in 2020? Will you be able to say, Google, where are my keys? And it will answer on your fridge. And it was 2004, and frankly, nobody believes that Google could evolve like that. So this seems quite a funny story back then, at least. But now you can ask that. Actually, right now you can say, hey, Google, where are my keys? Or Alexa, ask Tile to locate my keys. And you'll get not only an answer, but you'll get also a buzz or a potential phone call for that. And this is interesting. And if you stick with us to the end of the presentation, you will see one thing that Google's been cooking in their labs. It is in the live testing right now, and probably will become more mainstream in the next 5 years. But frankly, before going there and see how Google might look like in 2025, in today's presentation, we will touch on three trends that are here and could benefit you and your company like very, very clear. And we'll try to explore those kind of use cases for these emerging technologies. We are aiming for roughly a 45 minutes presentation, leaving some time for your questions in the end. Um, Basically, the three big trends. The first trend is the voice channel, also known as voice assistants or smart speakers. We will learn why is this important, what others have built here, and how Confuse.com is helping our users already present on the voice channel. Then we will move on something touching your wallet, something that could save you money, could get you better financing options for your company if you have one, or even could make you money by providing an ecosystem where you can sell your products or services in a totally different way. Welcome to the open banking session of our talk. Then the third section is called DevOps and is presented by my colleague David Tricky. We sometimes forget that in order to dream big, we need to execute small and constant. And David would walk us through the most important aspects of the DevOps culture, just to make sure that we understand the basics of delivering great products and services. Good. Without other things, again, voice channel. And if you are looking like the voice landscape, all four big tech companies launched their voice forays into this and their devices. Amazon is leading the way here with probably they've launched lots of many devices more than anybody else. And the applications that they've for these devices are growing each and every day. Google and Apple, they focus only on one product, having basically two sizes, but then also have the assistant and the artificial intelligence behind it. Microsoft decided not to compete on the hardware part with the other three companies, but letting Cortana, their proprietary voice assistant, to empower Amazon Alexa. So voice seems well past the definition of emerging tech. The top 4 companies are investing substantial efforts and resources into it. So it is easy to see it evolving past the emerging tech definition. Sometimes when we talk about voice, we tend to forget that voice is pretty much everywhere. Voice is at home, on your phone, on your watch, and also in your car. So basically, it's wherever you are and wherever you spend some time, you can find a voice activated device. Now, I pull out some stats just to show you how many people are actually using the voice channel right now. As you can see, 25% of UK population is using voice. And so we are well into the early majority stage. People are embracing the trend and the technology there. By now, probably it's safe to assume that we'll all either have a smart speaker in our home, either we know somebody who has one. Um, but then what struck me when I've done more research into this is how we use voice search. And it's interesting to see that 50% plus of people actually are using voice search on their phone. So basically, instead of typing a question into the search engine or open up a browser on your mobile, they just talk to their phone, and this is quite interesting. Um, Even looking to where we are when we are using voice, it is broadly split in 2 categories. We are either driving or at home during our free time. So before doing the research for this presentation, I knew lots of people are using voice in their cars. However, it took me by surprise that 62% of us actually are talking to our phone while driving. And that was quite, it's quite an interesting fact. And if you think like this, I mean, not being able to use your hands to manipulate the phone, that's the best pain points, if you want, that voice channel actually solves. Looking to these stats, something jumps at me. We are using the voice channel mainly for convenience. I can't operate my phone while driving, so it is more convenient to just talk to my phone. Similarly, it is more comfortable to ask Alexa to play music. That I feel that, I mean, whenever I feel like listening to some music, it's way easier to ask Alexa or whatever other smart speaker I have in my phone, in my house, to play that music. And in a matter of 2 seconds, I just got my music. Even when we are looking to other activities such as doing household chores or cooking, talking to a device is more convenient than using your hands to key something in your phone or anything else. And I mean, it's interesting also note that most of the Alexa devices are actually in your kitchen, not in your living room or anywhere else. Now, one thing that probably is less known about voice, voice it influences your SEO position, and that is highly relevant for companies. Amazon Alexa can seamlessly search through Spotify's musical history, scan Wikipedia, or shop on Amazon quickly as a basically it's just as a user command. Right now you can just say, Alexa, add whatever in my shopping basket, and you will get it there. Don't ask all the times when kids actually start adding things on your shopping basket. But that demonstrates how certain brands actually choose to optimize their interfaces to be compatible with voice search. Due to its prolific use, search engines such as Google are placing a higher emphasis on voice search optimization. But it's important to remember that voice search SEO and traditional website SEO are quite different. Therefore, some factors that affect website rankings may or may not have the same effect on voice search and vice versa. Probably if I were to summarize in one word is your SEO efforts, basically summarize in one thing to say like write the ways that you speak. And what I mean by this, when users search for content on desktop or mobile, they tend to search in short, almost like bullet points phrases. For example, if a user wanted to find a great web designer, they could just type top web designing companies into Google. But if they use voice search, a user might say, who are the top web designer companies in the world? You see, so suddenly you get a big difference between something that is quite 3, 4 keywords, big keywords, to actually something that is a phrase. So to ensure that actually your content is optimized for voice search as well, includes those long tail keywords that sounds more natural as opposed to shorter, snappier keywords to perform well in the desktop SEO. Plus also you might want to keep phrases short and simple. Voice search results are typically written like in the ninth grade reading level at most. So also your information might be high level. Maybe you want to break it down in a way that it's easy for anyone to comprehend. Even one more thing, 22% of voice searches queries are looking for location-based content. And I think that this is highly relevant to say whenever you do your SEO efforts, brands that higher chance to producing those kind of voice search content, they will have higher ranks there. So one thing, maybe you want to try using phrases like near me. So whenever you write your content, put those kind of localized keywords. Now, the voice channel, it is evolving fast. Is not something that we cannot see it as a well-established channel, but is evolving fast with more and more tech companies actually building skills for the voice channel. And as you can see here, in US, there are more than 60,000 skills, probably by now 70K. Skills, by the way, it's equally with applications or apps for voice devices. And in the UK, we have more than 35,000 skills already present there. Again, probably we can safely say that this is part emerging tech and users already adopting this. If you need inspiration to what to build in voice channel, and if you want to embark on that journey, probably it's one thing to look in US because for better or worse, they are leading the way. But probably equally important is to see that top 4 countries had relatively the same number of new skills developed in 2018, which means that they are embarking on this trend also. So it's not only a US thing and it's not only a niche thing right now. There are plenty of skills out there. You get plenty of information or things to inspire from. In terms of how you can use Alexa, broadly speaking, there are 2 categories of queries that you can ask your smart meter, smart speaker or phone. Generic ones or personalized ones. Basically, those are the 2 categories. Usually people are asking generic tasks such as play a specific song or set a timer for X minutes or what is the weather today. And frankly, as a side note, the set a timer totally resonates with me. I have 2 small kids, and sometimes they ask me when we can play together, Dad. And if I tell them in 20 minutes, guess what? The next time they just go to Alexa and then ask for to set a timer for 20 minutes. And then from time to time, they just ask Alexa how many minutes remaining on their timer. So for my children, actually talking to a speaker, it's natural. And for me, it was very strange. In the first 2 or 3 weeks, I remember bringing like 2 years ago, I bought Alexa and bringing in our house. It was quite a strange interaction there. But frankly, after the 2 or 3 weeks, everything got so normal. And I remember one time discussing with a friend, and then I needed to stop Alexa, and I said, Alexa, stop, please. And of course, that friend started laughing at me because I started to be very polite with my devices. But what I'm trying to say is that on voice, you can have more of a natural conversation than in anything else that you have right now, not even Messenger or web or anything else. So probably it's a safe bet that actually the voice channel is here to stay. Is not something that will fade away or anything. Now, getting into the personalized categories of queries, those are much more powerful. So for example, Amex allows their users to check their account balance, to review charges, and to check the available credit. Of course, there is an intermediate step there. You need to link your account, but once you've done that, you just go there and ask pretty much whatever you can ask from your banking app, you can ask from the voice channel. And probably it's not a question who or which one actually is more important than the other. Probably it's a question how the two actually complements each other. Now, we've seen until now why the voice channel matters and some of its use cases. In Confused.com Labs, we built a revolutionary service on Alexa, or this is what we believe so, the car insurance code without any questions. So people who stay local, I mean, the problems that we try to solve here, it's very clear in the market. People who stay local to their to their car insurance provider usually don't get the best price and the best deals. And is in most of the cases that we do, they could be better off by switching their insurance provider. However, there are only so many hours in a day, and you cannot do everything. We found out that sometimes our users just postpone getting a new code during their renew cycle until it's too late, or the code is too expensive, or because it was run very lately and whatever, very close to the renew date. We wanted to help our users during the renew phase to learn the best car insurance price from Confused.com. And we wanted to do that in a very cool way and very simple way, just by asking one simple question. And by asking that question, actually, Alexa would reply to that. I prepared a video here also, but probably will take us a little bit more time to switch between things here. Um, you can see it here how basically you just ask one question, Alexa, find cheap car insurance, and then Alexa, after like 30 seconds, it said your top code is 207 in this case, or whatever is that top code. Now, why is this important? Why is this relevant? First, again, the problems that we've seen in the market is that people often tend to postpone getting this code. And the sooner you get the code, the better the code is. About your renew, see what's the best price from Confused.com. And seeing what's the best price from Confused.com, at least you have a chance to say, okay, do I need to further look into this, or I'm okay with my current insurer? If you want to further look into this, everything that you need to do is just pick up the code on your email, because Alexa it's already sent it to you on an email. Now, there are some things to consider here in the voice channel if you want to embark on it. First, we learned that we've got free organic traffic. And that was a very good and very pleasant surprise, because people were naturally finding our skill. And again, when we set up this test, we never assume that many people will actually find the skill out there just by themselves. The second thing that you want to consider is don't neglect the FAQs. So our skill, of course, besides being very useful and generating you a code during your renew phase, it answers also lots of frequently asked questions about car insurance and demystifying all the aspects of car insurance. And we found that lots of users actually are using it like this. And this again was we developed it to test it to see if the users actually are using it, and yes, we see that we've got quite good adoption there in terms of the FAQs. But probably the most important thing we learned is that we can make it work. And yes, the technology is robust enough to allow a zero questions car insurance journey right now, which is pretty awesome. The voice channel allows a more personalized journey and more useful, if you ask me. Instead of answering 50 questions on our website, why not just ask Alexa to get you the best price and see if you like the best price? Then of course you can embark on the journey there and switch your provider or whatever, at least learn a little bit more about it. Perfect. So until now, we've seen how Alexa or Google not only can find your keys, which is a cool element, but also find the best car insurance price from Confused.com. I think that whoever wrote that joke didn't dream big enough, but to actually create a meaningful experience, a company needs both the channel, in this case, the smart speakers, but also data. And can you imagine, again, a full 50 questions car insurance journey run on Alexa? I seriously doubt that anybody would have got a price if you were to implement those that kind of question. And probably this leads us to the next session, which is about data. And more important, it's about how you can make use of your current data, data that it's being locked inside banks and inside their data centers. Let's talk about open banking. Now, open banking is driven by regulatory, technology, and competitive dynamics. Open banking calls for banks to open their APIs to make certain customer data available to non-bank third parties. Now, the innovation is both evolving the industry towards hyper-relevant and platform-based distribution, and giving banks a rich opportunity to expand their ecosystem and expand their reach. I hope I didn't put you to sleep to this definition. This is by the book definition. And I'm sure that you can search this online. And I would have given, I would give you my simple view and my simple interpretation of this. And whenever I'm trying to explain open banking to my parents, for example, I'm doing it quite down to earth. And let's see if I can do it here also. Let's assume that you've been banking with Bank X for the past 7 years. And every time when you do a purchase, you create a data entry in the bank database. The real question is who actually owns this data? And if we were like in a normal setting, so I would have loved to engage you a little bit in a debate there and have some quizzes. But from my experience, most of people actually believe that the data belongs to the bank. However, GDPR says that this data belongs to you, not to the bank. But then the question is, how can you make use of it? If you just go to your bank and hand it over a stick, should they copy all your data on that stick? And even if they do so, how can you benefit from it? There is no simple way for you to interpret all the data and get some meaningful insights. Now, open banking is the regulatory and technical framework that facilitates you giving read-only access to a third-party company to your data. So that's very important. So right now, before there was only two elements in the transaction. There are the bank and the customer, and everything that the customer was generating in the bank's vaults. But then right now, the customer can empower a third-party application, a third-party platform to actually get that data and help them. And it's very simple, and we've seen this. It's been around since 2018, and we already seen quite a number of apps and people adopting it. Another benefit for open banking is that actually it's facilitate these zero commission payments. Imagine that you have a business that doing lots of transactions with lots of customers. Usually it's you get the payments and everything you get through a card payment company, but open banking empowers you to actually eliminate the card companies. And by doing this, businesses can save anywhere between 0.5 to 1%. And we've seen actually examples where businesses can save up to 3% of their revenue just because they don't pay the transaction fees there. Probably even more important, open banking, it is not just a UK thing or it is not just a EU thing. Open banking is part of the open mega trend. And yes, in different countries, as you can see here, it's called in different ways. But by the end, in the nutshell, um, open data means that you own that data, you own every data that you produce out there, and that data needs to work for you. So therefore, having a regulatory framework and a technical framework where you can empower other companies to actually make use of that data, that is something that will stay for here. Companies can use open banking for other things also, like digital identity services and onboarding process automation. Now here I've put some examples in the market. Just the number of apps helping you with a number of things like account aggregation, budgeting, and transaction. And then getting more into this, Clio is a chatbot that uses artificial intelligence to try to make managing your finances fun. The chatbot or digital assistant actually links to your bank account to track your spending, manage your budget, and recommend how much you can afford to save. Clio has also a weekly quiz that further incentivize you to raise your awareness about your spending. MoneyHub puts yourself at the center of the financial universe by bringing together basically all your bank accounts, credit cards, investment, savings, borrowing. But it is also an advisory component. So whenever you need to talk to somebody about your personal situation, personal finance situation, then you can get a real human being that will advise you on a number of matters there. Plum, it's another app that analyze your transactions daily to learn about your income and spending. And every few days, Plum does maths and transfer the perfect amount from your bank account to your saving account. And little by little, it adds up, of course. But Plum helps you set this aside a little bit more, invest, and stops you being overcharged on bills. But again, those are only few of the apps capitalizing on the open banking trend. And those apps actually are helping people to make better financial decisions and provide services at the right time. And it's interesting because right now their philosophy is to surface the pain and also to surface the solution in the same platform, and that starts to become more and more mainstream. Not is not the norm, but it's more mainstream. Again, there are many apps out there, and there are few millions people in the UK linking their account. This is not just a small trend, but one could consider probably open banking as an emerging technology. I would say that we are past we are in the early innovators and early adopter stages, which means that in the next number of years, let's say 3 to 5 years, probably this will become more mainstream. Now, the interesting part also, and probably more relevant for the audience here, is that open banking started to attract business to business companies also and SMEs. Like we've seen even more. For example, your business might struggle to get finance because of the scene, maybe a scene credit file, or maybe being negatively impacted by COVID-19. Or maybe your business pays high commissions to the car companies for facilitating the payments. For example, small shops such as coffee shops and corner street shops, they have many very small transactions. This leads to car processing fees being anywhere between 1% to 3% of their revenues. Frankly, in an industry having very low margins, the car processing cost could be the difference between survival or not. Another example where open banking could help SMEs make money is by allowing them to provide their services in a business-to-business platform. Let's see below how one platform actually helps SMEs with their finances. I've selected for today one platform called Credit Passport, and Credit Passport's stated mission is to support SMEs navigate the financial system and access funding. They have three main features. Credit Passport uses your bank data to show you how the financial systems views your company in real time. It's totally secure and doesn't impact your credit profile. Liquidity shortfall calculator is another feature and actually calculates how much funding or cost saving your business may need in the next 6 months. And they provide also a funding portal which connects directly with 134 lenders to find funding quickly and with minimum paperwork. They say this is the only credit score designed for SMEs. It is easy to understand not only by you, but also by your partners and financial institutions. If we dive more into this, according to Credit Passport, large corporations work with global credit assessment associations to actually provide you this financial score. Whenever you apply for a loan or whenever you apply for financing, they have these scores. Now, these companies tend to have an extensive finance teams and so on. But in theory, smaller companies can also use credit assessors such as Moody's to demonstrate financial stability. But for many, it is way prohibitively expensive and only a few are able to access these services. In reality, it is incredibly hard for SMEs to demonstrate the reliability and creditworthiness without some serious admin time for that and invest in lots of admin processes. The reporting seldom reflects the real state of the play, often lacking the latest figures or maybe failing to account for whenever you get some strategic investment into your growth or anything else. Therefore, only 1% of the UK bank loans are to SMEs, even though this sector represents like 85% of our domestic GDP. Credit Passport provides a new tool based on open banking to check a real-time business credit score reflecting the fast-paced nature of your business. So basically, you can get this credit score, and their business credit score, it's an alphabetical rating from A++ to E. It is generated from open banking data from your bank, and it gives the most up-to-date and accurate picture of your business credit profile, whilst also presenting in a super intuitive way for any business owner to understand and learn from. Um, and probably, and this is even more interesting, is because they have an extensive lender panel on their platform. You can have also, okay, you have the credit score, they give you all sorts of good financial insights into your current situation, but they are using these insights to provide you better financing options or even lower rates and everything due to their panel. And what's even more interesting, open banking can help your business make money. And as we've seen, Credit Passport connects directly with 134 lenders. And I think that the most powerful way to provide your service is when a user is reaching out about their problems. Because probably Google is the best example for this. The better your website is catering for their visitors, the higher you rank on Google. The higher you rank on Google, the more click you get to your websites. And then, of course, you get the chance to surface your solutions if your problem helps, if your company actually helps users fixing that problem, then they will embark with your product. But platforms such as Credit Passport use the same philosophy, but in a relatively different context. Like they are helping you with solving a problem, but they are providing also the solution of that problem inside that platform. In this case, they are providing the loans. But the question is your business actually helping people with anything that could benefit from having access to open banking data? And if this is the case, you might try to consider providing providing your services to one of those platforms, because it's way more intuitive and users are already there. The platform are already helping the users with their problems. And as long as your product actually further helps the user with that problem, then probably you'll experience quite good numbers there. But now let's see how open banking can actually save you business money by eliminating the card payments transaction fees. You can see here an example where an online store actually implemented a new checkout option by using open banking. No need to remember your credit card or think about how secure is to enter your credit card details on the website. The user just taps a secure bank transfer, and that selects their bank, open their banking app, and by opening their banking app, their bank actually asks them, do you want me to transfer 20 pounds to this company? You say yes, and that's it. This is how fast you can actually use this. And again, you save the card processing fees, which sometimes can be quite high. An alternative for sure, if you have like offline stores such as coffee shops, they could implement a QR code system where the user pays using their phones just by scanning that QR code. Um, I think that by now you've seen some very pragmatical applications for open banking technology, applications that could save you money today. You might think that implementing these technologies cost you a fortune. But frankly, the reality is that there are lots of companies being lots of infrastructure out there. And if you want to embark on that journey, sometimes it's not a very big IT build and everything. So can be in reach. Now, what the future holds, we don't really know. But having access to your banking data is only the first step. Can you see this being followed by other industries such as broader finance sector or even maybe retailers one day? I maybe it's just me, but I can surely can imagine that day. Now, I remember one phrase going like this, like strategy without execution is delusion. And dreaming of all these trends is one aspect of the story. Being able to capitalize on these trends by delivering customer experience is even more important. Now, David Ricky, my colleague, will explain why DevOps is the key to execution. And David will explain also the most important aspects of the DevOps. David, can I hand it over to you?
Yeah, can you unshare your screen and I'll share mine?
Perfect. I'll share my screen.
And can you see that screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So yeah, thank you for that, Adrian. So Adrian's discussed some of the opportunities that Confused.com Labs have been looking at. And I'm now going to try and talk a little bit about our adoption of DevOps patterns, practices, and cultures to allow us to deliver innovative change. In my experience, it's only possible to be innovative when an organization has a culture that actually embraces change. Now, at Confused, we've got a history of innovation. We were the first price comparison site, so we changed the way people bought insurance in the UK. And over the years, we've had to innovate to grow. At times, we've had to innovate to survive. Currently, we're innovating to bring more products and features to customers, the sort of voice skills that Adrian's been talking about. And we're also innovating to operate at scale across multiple geographies. Now, our platform's underlying tech stack has required constant innovation and change over the years, from physical servers to virtual machines to cloud platform as a service operations, and now into the world of microservices and serverless and NoSQL and things like that. The pace of change can be relentless. And no company is really starving for ideas on where to innovate. It's about the execution. In many organizations, the number one issue is how to best utilize the limited engineering talent available. And it's the culture we've got at Confused that allows us to keep developing that innovative change and allows us to hold on to talented engineers. And a term that backs up that engineering culture at Confused is the term DevOps. It's a big subject that I probably haven't got time to do justice to. So if you were to do a Google search for DevOps, what you would probably get in the results is an infinity loop like this. Because DevOps is about moving away from the big waterfall approach to delivering projects. And this Mobius strip and operation teams working together to continuously integrate and continuously deliver incremental value through a cycle of planning, coding, building, testing, releasing, deploying, operating, and monitoring, and then feeding all that's learned back into that next cycle. It hints at the need for type feedback loops, transparent data, the need to collaborate across teams in real time. It perhaps misses the idea that there are often many of these loops working in parallel, and some of the other teams that sort of fall into this, like security engineers and things, but it's a diagram that sort of starts to explain it. And it also hints at the need for automation in every area, which leads me to my next slide about DevOps vendor culture. Because if you search Google for DevOps, you'll discover a vast array of tools that are going to promise you a fast track to DevOps Nirvana. And you need to remember that DevOps is not a tool that you just go out and buy and install. It's a way of working, and it's a mindset that you have to strive towards. So when you're choosing your tooling, you need to make sure that you're only working with vendors that are aligned with your organization's culture and that have a velocity and an appetite for change that's in sync with your organization. Because it's this cultural fit that's probably going to influence whether you think of these dependencies as strategic partners that you want to embrace and get further into bed with, or that's going to lead your thinking more towards fearing vendor lock-in and the added complexity of trying to avoid that. My main tip around DevOps and vendors is never ever trust a company that guarantees 100% uptime, because those guys clearly don't understand their own tech and their own dependencies, and as such, they're dangerous people to work with. And that's kind of all I'm going to say about suppliers at this point. So we have our DevOps approach, and we have tooling to support all of the stages of that. But the thing I really want to talk about is how that affects our teams and the way we approach new work every day. And I think that can be best described by sharing the tenets we hold dear. No matter what the technology, these are the principles in which we conduct ourselves. The first is clarity of purpose and doing what's right, not what's convenient. If you do something right, you don't build up technical debt that has to be paid back later. If you do something that's convenient, you may end up incurring technical debt that is going to be an obstacle to future innovation, like the tree blocking this cycle path. And this is a lesson Confused have learned the hard way. The next is leave it better than you found it. In the same way that you pick up a discarded bottle on the beach. If you're working in an area and you see issues, you simply must ensure you do something to improve that area. And if you can fix it, great. But if not, you've got to at least make the domain experts aware. You can't just leave problems to fester for the next person who works on it to choke on. You cannot over-communicate. Information on how we all act as an organisation has to be readily available to the relevant members of the team, and the way we behave as a team has to be constantly reinforcing that. We need to work together to reach consensus, because that's likely to produce better decisions that are far better than those made by individuals acting alone. And once a consensus has been reached on a standard or a best practice, that has to be recorded and shared. Again, you cannot over-communicate. The final one is a sort of shared components first model. So this is essentially recycle and reuse. If you've got 15 different applications, you don't write 15 ways of logging data logging MI. You write one MI logger and you share that across all 15 applications, even if they've got different deployment hosts and different technologies. You recycle and reuse what you've built. Now, I don't know where you are in your adoption of agile processes, but what I would say is that if you are going to adopt just one agile practice, let it be retrospectives. Retrospectives are to be embraced and never feared. It's not about blame. At Confused, when we start a retrospective, we have a base assumption that everyone has worked to the best of their ability with the resources and information available to them at the time. And then we try to collectively tease out where we can learn and improve. And the output of these retrospectives tends to be in the form of things that we should continue doing, things that we should stop doing, and ideas or actions that can be carried into that next iteration. And if you're doing this, you may find in time that this cycle of taking stock, learning, and adapting ends up leading you to a more DevOps approach. One of the things that really pleases me at Confused is in recent years seeing how retrospectives have moved out of engineering teams and are now being embraced across the company on all sorts of different projects. Now, if you are conducting retrospectives, one of the questions you're going to end up asking yourself is whether you're actually collecting all of the data you need. It's a truism to say that if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And years of working with production systems and monitoring them tells me that there's nothing quite like a graph to highlight the stark reality and impact of any change that you make. So the final thing I want to talk about with regards to the Confused culture is the importance of upskilling. At Confused, we used to have a school of tech that was open to anyone in the organization so that they could get help in learning new tech skills. And in recent years, that's been broadened out and become a wider university of clarity. Now, this democratization of skills is founded on the understanding that innovations can happen anywhere and everywhere in an organization, and that the tools for designing and implementing high quality automation are getting so cheap and ubiquitous that anyone can innovate for themselves. If only one team is singularly responsible for innovation in an organization, that team will soon become an overwhelmed ministry of slow or no, and innovation becomes confined to very select areas. Now, in today's world, many day-to-day tasks can be improved by just better integrating the data and services you already have. COVID has forced many of us into the adoption of remote working tools. And as a result, many organizations are now completely dependent on tools like Office 365 and Teams, which means that you also now have access to one of my favorite tools, which is Microsoft Flow, or Power Automate, as it's now called. If you have Office 365 in your organization, I urge you to investigate the opportunities Flow Automation gives you, because it means that anyone with an Office 365 license can develop codeless automation that's instantly running in the cloud with no hosting concerns for the end user. And out of the box, it can integrate with almost every other tool you use, be it services like Outlook, Teams, Slack channels, databases, DevOps pipelines, third-party APIs like open banking ones that Adrian was talking about. There's about 500 connectors out of the box, and you can, with a bit, not much work, create custom connectors. I've used automated flows myself to eliminate manual tasks like running health checks in New Relic and then getting the output and turning it into summaries to post into Teams channels. But I'm more interested in the things that are happening outside of the operations area. So for example, our finance team have long been using mammoth spreadsheets to manage and track purchase order requests. And they're now building themselves and prototyping an automation flow that lets them self-serve a solution that captures the purchase order requirements on a Microsoft form. It then creates a work item and visualizes it on a Kanban board in amongst all of the other purchase order requests that are in flight. It triggers automated approval flows, and then it runs conditions to see if counter signatures are required to fully authorize it. And it becomes an automated end-to-end process until the purchase order is closed. It's a world away from spreadsheets and bits of paper, and it might not work. But the good thing is that if it doesn't, or whether it does or not, they'll hold a retrospective and they'll learn from that, and the next iteration will be better. And I think that is, I hope I've shared a little bit about the culture and the DevOps mindset that we have at Confused, which enables us to capitalize on the sort of thinking that Adrian has been talking about earlier. And at this point, I'm going to hand him back to him to round off the session.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Let me try to share my screen again. That's the last one. Good. Can you see it? Perfect. And I mean, this concludes the presentation about the big three trends. We hope we provided some clarity on what we think are three of the biggest trends in innovation. In summary, we've seen how big the voice channel is with its many forms and presences. And I hope you all test tonight when you go home. I hope that you will all test the Confused.com Alexa skill and use it when your car insurance is about to expire. I hope we raised a little bit more your awareness for the open banking trend, because that's probably even more relevant for you and for your company. And we've seen some pragmatic ways to use it for your immediate benefit, personal or business. Using this in your business is easier, again, that you would imagine. And we've seen from David all the ready-made tools that you can use for automate lots of things. Open banking is not exactly like that, but it's as simple as possible if you want. There are lots of technologies out there and platforms. And especially during these times when COVID-19 impacted our lives across the globe, it is very important to learn new ways of solving all problems to your benefit. And open banking, DevOps, maybe voice channel, those can be at your advantage. And of course, we've seen some clear examples of how DevOps culture can help you deliver against your tech goals and your business goals, more important. Right now is even more relevant to make sure, again, we keep building up necessarily tech skills to keep us to keep the pace with the innovation. While these are three of the biggest trends in innovation, and we can see them achieving mass adoption and positively impact your business, you should still be thinking about your particular business or situation and how could you leverage these trends, if anything at all. Clearly, none of these are a silver bullet for your company, and none of these are relevant for every company. You need to consider the business problem first and see if actually this can be solved by any of those. And right now, this concludes our presentation. I'm trying to see how can if we have some questions, and how can I see the questions? Okay, chat. Okay. So for now, it feels like we don't have any questions there. Again, not sure if this was interesting for you. It'd be quite good for us also to understand, is this relevant for your business? Would you see any of those trends actually impacting your business, or anything at all of that? And probably regarding the DevOps, and I know it sounds way too technical, but I think that as David mentioned, that's a culture, and it's something that you can adopt without a lot of investment and anything else. Probably we'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes, and
Thanks,
okay.
Geraint.
Thanks, Geraint. Okay. That's good to know. Again, probably for I mean, for any discussions regarding those trends, I'd be more than happy to have a chat. And David also, I'm sure, without putting him into too much trouble, I'm sure that he will be more than willing to explain our views into those trends. And as usual, of course, take it with a pinch of salt and see if actually those applies to your business. Perfect. Then I will end the session here. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the presentations. And again, let us know, and please do reach out if you have any other questions.
Thank you for joining the Emerging Tech Fest. Join us again on our virtual live sessions, or watch us on playback anytime, anywhere.